When I called my son Max to ask about the wedding date, I never expected the words that would freeze my heart. With a faint, mocking smile, Lena said, "We already got married yesterday." Only the special ones were their special ones. For years, I had carried their rent, filled their kitchen, and given them more than I ever kept for myself. Yet, in their world, I wasn't special. My carefully chosen dress, the shoes still in their box, the dreams of standing proudly by my son, all shattered in a single moment. Only special ones. Max's eyes flickered upward, rehearsed calm plastered across his face, as if he'd practiced this moment in a mirror. "Mom, it was just a tiny ceremony, private and quiet. Only a handful of witnesses," he said. The words landed with a hollow clang. I had already seen the photos. Laughter by a fountain, relatives clustered around Lena and Max, champagne catching the light. I had seen the dress I helped purchase, the same white fabric I imagined in pictures, where my face would glow with pride. A week later, the woman who had shut me out called with the urgent cadence of someone drowning. "Mrs. Richter, the landlord is threatening to evict us," Lena whimpered. "We missed the transfer. Please." Her voice frayed, pleading in the precise tone that always opened my wallet. I remembered nights balancing my checkbook, small sacrifices so they could sleep under a roof that bore my name. The audacity of hearing her after that exclusion felt obscene. "So you only invited special people," I said, before the anger cooled. The pause on the line was a sound as vast as the ocean. I don't know what you mean," she mumbled. Yet that same voice asked for money for a ring, bigger than the apology, for a honeymoon announced online, for dinners when friends visited. I had been generous to the point of erasure. The realization cut deep. Counting the transfers became a ritual. I sat at my kitchen table, lamplight sketching the numbers into stark lines. Rent, groceries, repairs, gifts, emergency loans. Each entry a small betrayal. The total rose until it reached a number that made my hands tremble. Savings meant for a quiet retirement had been siphoned away. The math was brutally clear. Money had been the thermometer of their affection. Calls multiplied. Entreaties, excuses, manipulative sweetness, until I learned to let them ring. For the first time in years, I did not rearrange my day to accommodate another plea. Instead, I walked without an errand, to feel the pavement and remember a life beyond bank statements. In the park where Max once chased pigeons, a young father taught his boy to throw a stick. I watched, and the memory of my son as a child surfaced. Small, honest, unencumbered. At the bank, Mr. Klein recognized me and offered the kind of concern a stranger can afford. "Are you sure about canceling the transfers?" he asked. I told him I was done being indispensable. He printed the confirmation with a small, compassionate smile. When I left, the air seemed different, cleaner, like a window opened after a long, stuffy night. Coming home later, 3 cars were parked in front of my house. Inside, Max sat hunched on the sofa. Lena paced, and an unfamiliar man rifled through my papers. "We need to talk," Lena lied. "We've consulted a lawyer about your behavior." Their project, beneath the thin varnish of care, was a hostile takeover in slow motion. They called it concern. I called it theft, dressed as care, an attempt to seize control while gaslighting me into silence. When their lawyer spoke of concerning behaviors and the need to intervene, the air went thin. How dare they equate setting boundaries with decline? I gathered my documents and held them like armor. The moment had crystallized. They wanted power over my life, not my welfare. Mr. Fisher, the lawyer they'd hired, smiled with the practiced warmth of someone who profits from family fractures. "Mrs. Richter, we've prepared a temporary power of attorney to help manage finances during this difficult time," he said. I did not ask for help. I asked them to leave. I took the folder he offered and, without hesitation, dropped it into the trash. That small act felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Afterwards, I walked to the bank, canceled the automatic transfers, and closed a chapter I had not realized had been written for me. I would no longer serve them. The morning after I stopped the transfers, I changed the locks. The satisfying click of each new key felt like a small, private victory. Having cameras installed by Ethan let me glance at my gate and breathe. For the first time in years, my house felt like mine again. Neighbors I had once waved to brought casseroles instead of asking for money. Eleanor, 2 houses down, sat with me and listened without ever bringing up finances. That steady companionship was a balm I didn't know I needed. Max and Lena did not retreat. They escalated with lawyerly efficiency, whispering terms like capacity and sending polite but insistent messages. Their goal became clear. Not reconciliation, but control. It was the betrayal of a new kind. Legal, cold, and calculated. Mr. Weber told me to gather everything. Bank records, texts, photos of parties, receipts for gifts. Each paper would be a thread in a defense. We made a binder and labeled each transfer voluntary. Turning generosity into documented evidence felt strange, but necessary. A social worker arrived one afternoon. She read a script designed to make independence sound like decline. I asked for my lawyer. Mr. Weber presented the binder. Her expression changed as pages revealed the truth. The scripted concern began to look like a contrived campaign. We sought an independent psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Moore administered tests, memory questions, practical financial scenarios, problem-solving tasks, and observed my answers with professional attention. Her written opinion was clear. I was competent. The report would be crucial in court. On the hearing day, the courtroom hummed with artificial calm. Max and Lena sat stiffly, while their lawyer painted a portrait of a fragile mother in need of protection. Mr. Weber opened our binder and fed the bench the chronology of voluntary transfers and social posts showing celebrations I had not attended. Witnesses spoke plainly. Mr. Klein from the bank testified about the regularity and voluntary nature of the transfers. Cynthia from the salon described my routines. Eleanor testified about my independence. Each small testimony stitched a picture of a woman who still decided for herself. Under cross-examination, Lena's composure cracked. Small contradictions emerged. Max avoided eye contact. Dr. Moore explained the clinical results. When the judge denied the guardianship petition, relief washed over me like warm rain, an acknowledgement that a court would not be a tool for greed. In the weeks that followed, the calls slowed. Max and Lena drove past a few times, then their visits dwindled. They sent letters that read like apologies braided with expectations. I did not answer. Instead, I spent afternoons at a ceramics class and evenings painting, rediscovering textures and colors I'd set aside for others. Neighbors who had once asked for favors began to offer help, sharing recipes, bringing plants, inviting me to book club. At a garden picnic, someone taught me how to prune roses properly. Those small gestures built a network that felt honest and reciprocal. I kept a log of the times they drove by, the license plates, the dates. What felt like obsession turned into useful evidence and a ritual that calmed me. The presence of law enforcement to enforce a temporary order once made the boundary feel real and not merely symbolic. Grief arrived in quiet moments. I missed the son who once clung to my hand. But grief sat beside a growing gratitude for friends who had shown up without asking for repayment. Slowly, my life filled with chosen activities and small pleasures. The exclusion from their wedding became, in time, the hinge that opened a new chapter. I learned that generosity must be given freely, not extracted. Saying no had not made me unlovable. It had made me whole. I kept my receipts and my dignity. Freedom didn't erase wounds, but it made room for new joys. Trips with Diana, a painting sold at a local fair, and mornings when I chose myself first. I thrived. The courtroom doors finally closed behind me, and with them, the shadows of manipulation and betrayal. I walked into the sunlight, not just as a mother, but as a woman who had reclaimed her freedom, her dignity, and her future. My story is not just mine. It belongs to every parent who has been treated as a wallet instead of a heart. If you connected with my journey, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories of truth and resilience, like this video and subscribe today.